Okay, welcome to our seventh step of 7 for our Created for Good Work series. And today we are blessed to have our career ministry volunteer, John Casey, and owner of Casey and Associates, staffing agents, not a recruiting talent management firm. I'm sure you have a, hope I didn't mispronounce that, but we're happy to have John share some tips and his expert advice with us. So this has been quite a journey. I know that several of you have been able to continue with us in follow along in your workbooks and do the exercises. And that's wonderful. I think that's really where you're going to get the maximum benefit. But if you have missed any of the steps, or if you didn't have a chance to go through each of the exercises, I think that it's not too late. I would encourage you to get a book from us, a workbook, and we have coaches available that can walk you through and guide you through some of the exercises. But every single episode has been recorded and is on our YouTube channel. So we'd love for you to subscribe to that YouTube channel. And they're going to be on our website whenever we get that. And we just, this is really a foundational program that walks through the process. And we like to encourage you not to see getting a job as, oh, I lost my job, now it's time for me to apply to this position, but to really hear God's call and connect with Him daily throughout the whole process. And so this isn't, even though this is the final step and walking in good works, and we're going to, talk about evaluating offers and compensation and all of that. Really, this is a cycle. So because step 1 was hear God's call, that doesn't mean you're done with that. That is a daily, that's our daily work, is to discern God's will for our lives. So as we are in this Advent season, just encourage you to connect with God, even if you don't do it on a daily basis. And other times of year, this is a great time to make that time really intentional, and just know that He has a plan for your lives. So I'll go ahead and just read one of my favorite Bible verses here, and then I will turn it over to John. There we go. Okay, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, submit to Him, and He will make your path straight. That's from Proverbs 3, verses 5 through 6. So I'll go ahead and turn it over to John.
Yeah, and I like to say to that quote, that Bible quote, let go and let God. That's really one of the toughest parts about doing a job search, is putting yourself in God's hands. And this is a great quote to do that. And I always tell everybody that I work with and I coach and all of our candidates, it's about letting go and letting God and listening to God's will. So
great.
I also want to take a second, and at the very bottom of each of these slides, it says train, coach, and connect. So we've been doing training, and coaches are available on a one-on-one basis. And the third piece, don't forget. So everybody should be connected on LinkedIn. I mean, everybody should be connected on LinkedIn with each other. And so I just put that out there. If anybody's not connected with me on LinkedIn, then reach out and ask. And then if there's anybody in my network, once you've linked in with me, you can see my network of contacts. If I can help you with any of those contacts, I'll be glad to do that. And we all should do that for each other. So I just wanted to call that connect piece, because it's a really important third part of it. Okay.
Thank you, John. And just to highlight on that, if the first time, lots of people are quite busy. The people you want to connect with are quite busy. So if you don't get a response right away, follow up. It's okay to do that. Like, don't bug them every hour or even every day. But if you didn't get a response right off the bat, feel free to reach out to me and help me facilitate the connection. Or if there's someone else in someone's network, don't take it personally. Just realize that everyone has a million things on their plate, and sometimes you just have to reach out a second time.
I'm one of those who's guilty. I've got 99 people who want to connect with me that I haven't checked off on. So I will clean up my LinkedIn today or tomorrow. So jump on if you're not connected with me on LinkedIn. So anyway, it's an offer too good to refuse. We are God's masterpiece. He has created us anew in Christ Jesus, so we can do the good things he planned for us long ago. So the key part I love about this, if God prepared it, you can walk it. He has a plan for us. And we may do a whole lot of good things that have nothing to do with this plan. We may do some bad things that have nothing to do with this plan. We have some bad things happen to us that have to do with this plan. The hard part, and I'm saying this to everybody here, after 74 years on this earth, is to listen deeply enough to hear God's will. It's really, really, really hard. And my wife's much better at it than I am. But I recommend that everybody think about meditation and how to meditate and how to be quiet and still and see what God wants you to do. Okay? That's not an easy piece, but it's there. And we will be happiest, I promise you, when we're doing God's will. Okay. That ends that. So how to get an offer. Okay, so it was a 7-step workshop. And you know these 7 steps because you've been through all of them. But I want to call attention to the ones in green. So here God's calling. What I've just been talking about is if you don't start out with finding out what God's calling is for you, then the rest of it gets difficult because you'll be going down, dead ends and trying to do stuff that doesn't fit you, that doesn't fit what God has planned for you. So every search should start and stay in the hear God calling area. So I would strongly recommend rereading pages 15 and 16. Okay. I also think that targeting opportunities is really, really important because once you've figured out kind of where you want to go, then finding those targets and then getting into them. So it's target and how do I reach in and contact those targets? So that never make a cold call. I say that elsewhere in here. You audit either through someone in our group or someone on LinkedIn. Find people who know you and who know the target opportunity and ask them to make a warm referral. I tell people no cold calls. And I say that again and again and again, because there's no reason not to make a connection and get a warm referral. There's no reason. I mean, between Tracy and myself and other people out here, you can get almost anybody in town, right? I mean, go Terry Sullivan, for instance, he's got 24,000 connections. Is everybody here connected with Terry Sullivan and his 24,000 connections? Are you all connected with me? I'm a little guy. I've only got 6,000 connections, but that's 30,000 connections already. There's no reason why you can't get a warm referral through us to one of our network contacts, okay? So it's about targeting and finding your way in, okay? So, and it requires a lot of research. Once you've got a target opportunity, we're talking about the company and the kind of work and the kind of culture that you're looking for. And that's all in this process. And so once you've got that, and then you can go in and start looking for those specifics in the towns or cities or states that you're going after geographically. That's really, really important. And people kind of shoot in the dark on number 4 and make mistakes in targeting.
Right, John, I just want to say to those on the call and those that might watch the recording, we have a few recordings that I think are really great and useful for any time. One is on LinkedIn, Terry Sullivan, John's friend, who has provided an excellent training, and he doesn't, you won't find that training recorded elsewhere, but I do have it on a secure link. So if you are interested in it, just message me and I will send you the link and enroll you in that class, because he did a Zoom for us and we have that recording. We also have one that's identifying and targeting companies. So once you kind of have an idea, if you want to work in a specific size company or whatever else, we have that recording as well. And that was done it was an excellent session too. So just in terms of the process on the Crossroads, the first step is upward, hear God's call. The second step is love yourself completely. So when you're reaching forward and understanding inward what you're, if you have maybe past fears or things that need to be addressed in your previous times, you're able to face those fears and reach forward to what lies ahead. The step 3, that is on aptitude. That is when you understand your unique gifts that God has given you, both your experiences, abilities, and your personalities, but also what are your passions, your interests, and your values. And when you take those all together, and they've called it the X factor, which is introducing the presence of Jesus Christ into the X factor, then you are able to take an inventory of your experiences, start on some star stories, little stories that are going to be explaining that. This was the AVIP exercise where we went through abilities, values, interests, and personalities, getting others' input for that, summarizing all these things together, and then you're at the point where you can target the opportunities where they're going to, most need what you do best. There's a lot of different tools through the Crossroads website, links to some great things, ways of researching employers and occupations. Of course, writing your LinkedIn profile and your resume. These are personal branding opportunities for you to communicate what you do best. And then then the search begins. You're going outward. So connecting personally is, like John was saying, very important. Not having cold calls, but being able to use your connections, continually network, but you're seeking to serve. So that's going to come off very authentic when you're wanting to bring your best to a company, and you're going to be happiest in an area where you're using your skills that you've identified and you've kind of done a thorough assessment of to meet their needs. Last week, we talked about wow interviews, and that was a great session as well. And then today we're going to be focused on, how to make those selections, walking in good works, evaluating offers. So John, any more on that?
Yeah, one little thing on targeting opportunities. I recommend to everybody go to the best companies to work for lists for ideas. And even if they don't have a job for you that you're particularly interested in, they know people who have cultures like them. And the reason I say that is best companies are defined as the companies where the employees are happiest and most engaged in achieving the company's mission. So that's a great place to go. Unfortunately, 70% of employees are in companies where they're not engaged. So those are not really happy places. That's a place to go get a paycheck. But to go to a place where the employees are really excited and enthusiastic about the company and they're working with the company, that's a good place to start. Okay. And there's a lot of lists, and I don't know if we have a separate set of lists, but we can come back to that later.
Very good. Thank you. Okay, I'll turn it back over to you.
All right. So this is writing a one-page proposal to an employer. So the first part is explain your connections to the company. If you're writing a letter, they want to know why you came to them. And if you don't have a connection, a warm referral, Joe blank blank over at Frito-Lay suggested I reach out to you. That's how you start, okay? With a warm referral and a rationale. And Joe thought I should talk to you because I fit your culture and you have strategic needs in the area where I am. I don't know why I have needs, but anyway, sorry about that. So the first part is you explain your connection to the company in your proposal. You summarize how you fit the culture and where you fit their strategic needs, okay? And then you list matching services, responsibilities, and activities. In other words, where have you done the work and achieved what they're looking for? What do you think they're looking for? Okay. And that's part of this, another paragraph. Think of these as paragraphs. Then outline a work plan, a timeline, and a cost. And my daughter just did this. She laid out a work plan. She listened to them and got involved with them. Actually, this is with Jeff, funny enough, Tracy. And so she's given them a work plan, a timeline, and what it would cost to do. So you can absolutely do that. You may just stop at matching service and responsibility and explain the value and results. But if you want to outline the work plan, it says kind of like, what role do I want to have? Permanent full employment, temp to perm? Do I want to be a consultant, outside consultant, or whatever? So that's where you outline the work plan, timeline, and cost. And then given what that work plan is, what would the value and results be? Okay. And suggest you get together face to face to discuss, Joe's, go and refer back to Joe, your connection, whoever it is, in asking for an appointment. Okay. Now we go to the point where, all right, they're making you an offer. All right. So critical questions, tips, and talking points. First of all, listen very carefully to the offer. If you have a third party, it helps a lot. I mean, if you've got a recruiter or somebody else, and it doesn't have to be, you can call me or somebody else like that can help you evaluate the offer and think about the questions you can ask that are reasonable questions given that offer letter. We just finished this offer. It's actually an appointment this morning, and I was working with the candidate and with the client to finalize the final things, okay? But you really want to this is the time to ask questions, because remember when Tony was talking last week in the WOW interview, the first part of the interview process, you are talking to them about their needs because they're trying to decide whether they want to buy you. Now they decided they want to hire you. Okay. Now you're a buyer. Now it's time for you to ask questions. Now it's time to make sure you understand the employer's needs. And I call them the hot buttons, and make sure that you fit what they're looking for. Okay. This understanding the employer's needs in terms of both the technical requirements and the management style is probably where everybody messes up. This area here is the most important. So spend the most time and dig deepest as you can about the employer's needs. When we see something that goes wrong, it's because we and the candidate didn't dig deep enough to find out what the true employer's needs were in terms of his management style or her management style, and whether they fit with the candidate. So that fit here is really, really, really important. It's the go, no go for you. If you don't fit, then just look for other opportunities, okay? Be clear about salary, wages, and benefits. There's some negotiation involved in all of this area, but make sure about in the benefit area, especially when does healthcare start and so forth. And they should give you a package, but there's a lot of questions to be asked. So make sure you clarify that. And I'd let no question go unasked or unanswered. And then obviously everybody gives you, because they want to, they get an offer to you in writing. Okay. So I'm not sure about understand offers process better.
Okay, we'll skip it.
Okay. Anyway, what's going to happen in this market, as we talked about earlier, is you're going to be getting more than one offer at about the same time. I mean, in 2 weeks, you'll be getting 2 to 3 offers. So what you want to do is to understand the offers better is have a sheet where you're comparing at least the salary and wages, the bonus, the commission, benefits, okay, and fit ought to be there too. So y'all have some more things there what you're looking at. And this is just the financial part. So you're talking about your current and recent number, compare it to the offer letter and what you're needed and what you would want. Now, there's actually 3 numbers out there. It's what you need, what you want, and what you're worth. There's actually another column out there. Because depending on what they're going to do with you and your title and the size of the company and the industry, there's a worth number, and you can get that on PayScale for free. So there's no reason not to go out to PayScale or salary.com and put in all the information about yourself, all the information about the offer and the company and the industry, and then click and find out what the offer, what the job is worth. So there's actually another column called worth. Okay? All right. Win-win negotiation. Hey, listen, it's not about us versus them or you versus they. It's, and frankly, it's not a compromise. You need to collaborate with them and get to where you want to be. And if it's not where you're happy and it's not where you fit, and the questions you're not comfortable with, where they're going with this, just run away. If it does, and you can get there, and it's a win-win situation, then it's a great deal. But when I say sometimes, and the company focuses on the wrong things, and sometimes you focus on the wrong things. Titles don't matter that much. Salary, yeah, you want it, and it's got to be reasonable. But if you're going into a new industry and so forth, and you're going to have an opportunity long term, but the fit is terrific, it's in retail. And oh my gosh, retail doesn't pay a lot of money, but I would love to work for this guy. that's when you need to think about a collaboration win-win situation. Okay. So keep yourself flexible, but at the same time make sure that they're being flexible with you. Okay. So not it. Does no mean no. That's an interesting. And Tracy and I didn't talk about this, but honestly, no is never no. This is really strange. You may say no and walk away and say, I'm sorry, but I needed another 10,000. I understand that you can't do it. And so, let's stay in touch. If you know of anybody that I can talk to that's like your company and has the same kind of characteristics that, you can refer me to or tell me about, I would love to hear about that. If there's a way I can help you find other candidates that fit the requirements that I didn't fit, I'd be glad to do that for you. So don't break it off, because what I've seen is 2 days later, my client will call up and say, Bill, we said no to, we want to come back to him. We're going to modify the offer and say yes. And that's what happened in this most recent search we just placed. There was a no, didn't mean no. She had another interview with somebody else, and they came back to her and hired her. So no never means no.
Yeah, I'll just piggyback on that because I've seen that happen probably 5 times in the last month and a half with my husband's firm. And some of it, he's gone back to people who they didn't have a place for a year or more ago. And he's gone through his other, everyone who's ever applied because they need people now. And so gone back, guy had moved to El Paso. He's flying him in for an interview because he liked him on their Zoom interview. And so I would say just in any part of life, never burn bridges. But there's certainly even people who didn't accept an offer because the benefits wasn't the right amount or whatever else. They've gone back to them after, searching more and not finding who they wanted, and made offers to people who had turned them down, and they've come back in. So I would definitely amplify that is the case.
No, it happens all the time, Tracy. I mean, they have their list and you're number one, but you don't make it because blah, blah, blah. And so you're $10,000 too much. So they go to number 2 and they're interviewing number 2 and they're writing up the offer for number 2. And it just clicks in their head. What are we taking the second best for $10,000? Let's get the best. I mean, boom. And then all of a sudden it's done. And like it says here, keep the relationships.
Oops, sorry.
Right. Keep those relationships. Mutual referrals. I mean, they can help you and you can help them. You say, by the way, you don't know, but I know 2 other people, and do you want, I'll send them to you and you can decide whether you want to reach out to them or not. And they at the same time can say, sorry, we couldn't make it on this deal, but we have some friends who are also looking for similar people, especially in the engineering world, right? So
I would say there's a lot of industries that are really small. And so there's a lot of industries that are really small, and, people talk and can pass people around.
I've been terminated more times than anybody here on the Zoom call, and every single time I ended up with a new relationship with the company because I decided burning bridges wasn't the right thing to do. And we stayed in touch and we did business together afterwards. So God closes that door, say thanks, because there may be another door that's opening that God's got planned for you.
Very good.
So my last thing I just wanted to say is, even if somebody calls you in for an interview and it's not what you want, okay, take the interview. One of my best friends who's been in the search business much longer than I have always says, practice, practice, practice. Interview, interview, interview. As much time as you can spending interviews, the better off you are. Okay? So never say no to an interview request. Okay.
That's for sure. I was just wondering if we should stop for any questions. We have more slides if we have time, but just wanted to first open it up to see if anyone had any questions they'd like us to answer. Questions for John, questions for Tony.
No.
Are you going to put the deck on your site, or are you going to send it out by link?
You mean the slides?
Yeah.
What I've done in the past is just shared the YouTube link. I haven't done that in the past, but if you would like to see them, I'm happy to send it to you. I think you're muted.
It helps to be off mute. A lot of times, well, not a lot of times, I can always read faster than the presenter is speaking, always.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why the deck really helps. Because I can, put this in the car while I'm going from appointment to appointment or what have you.
Right. Okay.
So that would most appreciated.
Sure.
No problem.
So just wanted, if there's no other questions, we'll just talk a little bit more about some other things that we'll come back to at another session. But anyone have anything else they want to ask? Okay, so this next slide talks about the environment, and what John has described earlier in the call is just how much of a job seeker's environment this is, because there are a lot of open positions. A lot of companies are having a really hard time finding people, or, after the Great Resignation, workers have a little more negotiating power, for work-life balance, for flexibility, things like that. So what this slide talks about is how you should actually understand the market that you're working in, because this really plays into your negotiating power and your compensation offers. And so if you know what the unemployment rate is, what the economy is doing in terms of where the jobs are, whether wages are rising or falling, what the demand is for skilled workers, cost to hire an exempt employee, and then what your market value specifically, how that corresponds to that number.
One other thing, Tracy, I see more and more now candidates talking about inflation and inflation adjusted salaries.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know how long that's going to last, but right now it's something you can put in your thinking, that most people believe that we've got 6 to 10% inflation coming. So.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yes, and certainly the market in the geographical area, we've talked about that as well, but that is certainly a factor too.
Yeah.
And so if you know
Hey Tracy,
yes.
I'm sorry to interrupt. Before you go on, could we try to answer a couple of these questions? So maybe that's John's area. So
yes.
I recall the employment rate being about 4.1% recently, but it should be floating about that. But so the cost to hire an exempt employee, I've worked with HR closely in the past, and I know the cost of turnover is it's very high with regards to all the effort you spend to hire someone, getting them productive and all that. And this is an old number in my head, at least 10 or 15 years. I was thinking like for turnover, it's like 35,000 or something like that. I'm curious to know, John, what is that number?
It's double that now. It's $70,000.
Yeah.
Yeah, when you think of training and onboarding.
70,000 without a recruiter.
Exactly. Yes.
And then you
Yeah,
add
the
John in
recruiting
there
fee
and
on top of it.
it's 6 figures.
Man.
Hopefully.
Thank you. Thank you.
And one other thing about recruiters and non-recruiters, recruiters are good for you. And the companies today, they would prefer to go direct, but they can't, it's all through LinkedIn, and getting through LinkedIn is a real trick. And you have to have specialists. So we specialize in certain areas. And so we can get people in certain functional areas. Others we don't. Certain industries we know really well, others we don't. And so the real deal is for you to find, the recruiters that are specialized that can go out. I'm talking about candidates. You still want to, if you're an engineer, right? Like we've got one, I think Matt's an engineer. So in his specialty area, you just go out on Google and you find out which search firms specialize in your area, and you reach out to them because they're looking for you desperately. And the same thing with finance and accounting or HR or whatever. I mean, there are certain people in Dallas-Fort Worth that specialize in each of those areas.
Yes. Okay, so just understanding, where you're hunting and how everything is negotiation, playing the game. So John, anything you want to say about this?
No, the only, I said it earlier, I just want to repeat it. Remember, this negotiation and this salary discussion, all that only starts when they've decided they want you.
Yes,
Don't start that conversation before then.
Yes, here we go. This talks about this. We'll just jump ahead to this one.
All right. Yeah, so in other words, and a lot of people use salary as a reason not to hire. So if you get a hiring authority, an internal recruiter or somebody like that says, how much money do you want? What do you need to take this job? You don't answer that question. Do not answer that question. Do not answer that question. I said that 3 times. Okay. It's what they're trying to do is say, okay, he's too expensive. Boom, he's out. And then you don't have to bother with you anymore. So you just say, look, I don't know how much money you should pay me because we haven't discussed my skill set and how it applies to your needs and what position you want to put me in. So let's talk about your needs and what you're looking for. And then you can figure out kind of what makes sense in terms of a salary for me and whatever benefits. But starting right now, I'm not in a position to answer that question, and just refuse to answer the question. Okay.
Thanks. So John, what if the candidate really wants to know what the salary range is? How soon is it appropriate to ask that of the employer?
Look, you can ask up front if you want. If you have a recruiter, they'll know. Sometimes they'll put it out when they put it out on their website. They'll have a salary range out there. Not always. You should. I don't like any discussion of salary until they've decided they want you, because all it will say. Here's my problem with that. If you're talking about salary and they're still trying to find out whether or not you're the right person for the job, then you're confusing them and you're sounding like somebody who is interested in what's in it for them rather than what they can do for them. And that's the difference. And so it changes the
Dynamic.
It changes the dynamic and it changes what you look like. Because you look like a taker, not a giver.
It comes back to that seeking to serve.
Right.
Step 5.
Yes, ma'am. That's it. So stay out of it. You don't
So
care.
as much as it's definitely important and it's nice to know, and just do your best to hold off.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. So let's see here. This I guess this kind of goes backwards a little bit, but I think we're fine with that. So here's a little bit more details about that. So you want them to see you at your best. You've gotten to know them. So understanding, whether something's a hard set amount or if there's flexibility in their offer. You want to know what the job entails. You want them to know you well and how well you fit the job requirements. And once you're in the final interview stages, then it's a lot more appropriate. When you really want to work there, you may have, you personally may have a little more flexibility. If it's the perfect job and you think there's room for advancement in that company and you love the company and you are really interested in the mission, you might be willing to accept another offer. We have some background noise. Not sure. And so then just, when they want you and they want to have you, then maybe the offer might even be better. So anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, one thing too, when they ask you and you talk about your salary requirements, say, look, like we talked about before, here's what I need to pay the bills. Okay, this is my bottom line. Here's what I'm worth in the marketplace. And here's what would make me really happy. I mean, I would be doing cartwheels if I could get this, right? And I've seen more clients than you would think pay the cartwheel number, because you've identified, okay, if I get this amount of money, I am like, boom, I'm exploding with joy and happiness and enthusiasm, and I'll be all over the place. I'll be totally committed and excited. I know this is what the market says I'm worth. Okay, this position, this job description. And I know that at least I need this to get my foot in the door to pay the bills and, move on up. So you've given them a range. And I think that works really well with clients. They like that. They like to see that. They like to see some flexibility. And very often they'll go to the top number. And you say, I know the job only pays $80,000. I'm going to 85. I'm going to blow their socks off because I want them day one totally excited. Anyway.
Very good. Do you want to talk about this, or should we hold this off for the next time?
I think we hold it off a bit. Yeah.
Okay. So I'll just go ahead and wrap this up, this series, so that we can, talk a little bit more and move forward. But once you get a new job, this shouldn't be the end of our time together. We love to have you graduate and move off and have your great job offers, and but we'd still love to hear from you. We'd love to hear about how how this process has helped. We have opportunities to volunteer. We don't expect you to be a brand new employee and start as a volunteer that same week or anything like that. But in an ideal world, this career ministry could benefit, a lot of people over our whole parish and out in the community. And so with that, I'd love to see success stories and people come back to give back, down the road. So there is a book on the Crossroads Career store from the founder, Brian Ray, that is Jumpstart a New Job. And it's basically just like ways to get a great start in the first 30 days. So I need to get a copy myself, but I have heard that's great. So another Bible verse, praise be to the Father, the God and Father of our Lord Jesus Christ, the Father of compassion and the God of all comfort, who comforts us in all our troubles, so that we can comfort those in any trouble with the comfort we've received from God. That's 2 Corinthians. John, you want to talk about your green here that you added?
Do we have a minute or two to talk about this?
We have about 2 minutes.
Okay, well, the concept of hot lead sharing is finding 2 other people who are looking for the same job you are, whether it's engineering or finance and accounting, getting together with them and sharing leads that you find in the marketplace, especially in this marketplace, sharing those leads when they're hot, when you're beginning the interview process. This sounds crazy, but it really works. And it works because you don't know if you're going to fit when you walk in. So I had 2 engineers, electrical engineers, and they listened to this story about hot lead sharing. And they said, okay, we'll do that. We're both electrical engineers. And 2 weeks later, they both got a job. And job A came from Bill and job B came from Joe. Neither one of them would have gotten a job if they hadn't shared leads when they were starting the interview process. So this really, really, really works. And I've seen it work at very high levels, at the CFO level, at engineering levels, lower engineering levels. Just get together with 2 other people, 1 or 2 at least, and then share those leads and make introductions. So what these guys did, these 2 engineers, they said, I'm really interested in this job, but I know Joe, and he's also an engineer, and he might be interested in the job too. I'll send him your resume. So he ended up sending in both his resume and his friend's resume. And the other guy.
So John, I absolutely love that. That is such a abundance thinking, abundance mentality, faith-based approach, because a lot of times being in a transition period, we're fearful, and we are sometimes when you're in that fear mode and anxiety mode, it's easy to be really feeling like it's a competition and feeling that there's a scarcity and there's not enough to go around. But what does an employer think when you might be a good candidate, but they see your true self to say, look, I've got this guy might be a great fit too. Whoever's the best person, let us be a good fit for you, and that speaks very highly of your of the person, I think. And I think an employer would be very impressed.
And it works. I've seen it work over and over and over again. So
Yeah.
Anybody wants to talk more about that, give me a call anytime.
Right. Plus, I think it's great to have accountability partners. And if you have a few people in the same industry that are maybe going for similar jobs, and that's, you're both looking, you're sharing some information. It's nice to have appointments, on your books when you're in the, have more time. You can just set up a coffee. Maybe you have once a week and you meet with someone that can help you.
That's exactly what you do. You meet weekly.
I love it. Very good. So this slide, if you look on the workbook, in JOB, one of your homework assignments is to look up these Bible verses. So the secret to your success is actually in the job, the JOB. J is for joy, James 1:2-4. O is for obedience, and that's in Ephesians. B is for doing your best, Colossians 3:23-24. And we've shared those Bible verses before, but I hope everyone has a Bible on their phone and their iPad, in addition to obviously a book is nice too. But you'll find it so easy to look up Bible verses when you can just click on it and you can get there in 2 seconds rather than to have your Bible with you all the time. So I think I've shared before, I love the YouVersion Bible app. It has many different versions on it, many different languages. It can talk to you. There's videos. So just download that app from the App Store. And then was there something you want to say something else about that, John?
No, that's great.
Okay. We'd love to hear your stories. Crossroads website, hopefully you've already registered, but they like to hear your stories also. And then congratulations. This is the end of this series, and I think it's been a great run. We have some exciting things planned for the new year. We already have some dates on the calendar and some speakers booked, and we'll be sharing those in a little bit. I will let you know about maybe an in-person next week, and those of you who can make it, we'd love to see you in person, your legs and everything. So if you, and maybe have some chocolate or something else, but just to be able to celebrate this important season of Advent, and as we approach Christmas and Christ's birth celebration, just a festive time. So as always, we are definitely available to you at any time throughout the week. Just email or message us. If you need additional coaching, you have interview coming up and that you want to practice, or you have offers that you need help kind of figuring out what this looks like, we have some great experts that I'm happy to connect you to. So this is not goodbye. We're just taking a little break. We'll have a break from the holidays and wish you all great times with your families. And thank you to our presenters, John and Tony from last week. We're so happy to have you with us. So have a great day. Take care.
Merry Christmas.
Bye.